Hello, and welcome to CLEA'S World. I am Clea, and today I would like to share with you more information I've received from the 25th dimension during my last BQH hypnosis session. I'll be reading from a transcript, and when I refer to Lorrayne, I'm speaking of my practitioner who is asking me questions I've prepared in advance of the session. When I refer to me, I'm speaking of myself under hypnosis, which means the answers are coming from a 25th dimension. I do want to explain that today's section of that session has to do with some personal questions. Now, you know the drill if you watch any of my previous videos, that the only reason I would even leave a personal question or what I sectioned off as being a personal question in these videos is because they are universal in nature, and even more so when the 25th explains what happened to me, then they do offer a message that is really meant for everybody. So you will see what I mean in a second, because I had questions relating to food intake and to sleeping habits. And so they are quite interesting in what they bring up, which I never thought about. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. At any rate, before I start reading, I want to thank you as always for subscribing, liking, and commenting on this video. All right, let's jump in. Lorrayne. Clea used to jump out of bed fully awake when she was younger, but now it takes her a long time to fully wake up, and she remains in a haze for a while. What do waking habits signal? Me. Yeah, so for example, her daughter was just saying this morning how quickly she can get out of bed and be perfectly awake, whereas Clea is sluggish, mentally sluggish, like many of us after taking a nap in the middle of the day or that kind of thing. And this is just a matter of how easily you can, basically, how focused you are on a certain reality. That when you switch your focus, which is what we do while we sleep, how quickly you can come back into the reality. So, for example, as a child, Clea, but also is the case with her daughter, the reality is still a little bit hazy, meaning that she never really is so much in the 3D reality, which would feel that confusion or feeling out of place when she wakes up, because she doesn't have to be in this reality fully. Even while she's awake and her essence is here, well, her essence is traveling most of the time when she's playing or whatever it is, her daughter is in her own world. But as you become older as an adult, and we're generalizing, obviously, that's not always the case, but as you become older and you are more married, more committed to pretending to be in 3D reality, when you travel and you're elsewhere completely, it's very hard for your essence to come back. And there is such a disparity in energy. That's what you're feeling. That's why you're hazy for a while and it becomes hard, because you're very much changing your vibration. Children don't really change their vibration that much. Cats, for example, we talk about cat naps. A cat will be alert in a split second. Why? Because they're really always in the same vibration. There's really no difference between when they sleep and when they're awake. I thought this was super interesting. I had no idea. All right. So, Lorrayne, thank you. That makes sense. Okay. Clea's had a 3-week period in which she didn't need a nap. Her night's sleep had not changed, and she has usually needed a nap in the last 3 months every day. What happened? What has changed? Me. Yeah, so the energy was different. When we say the energy, we want to say this again, because when people hear the energy was different, they think you are reacting to energy outside. When we say the energy is different, what we mean is that you are dealing with a different type of energy. You're doing your own work, internal work, and you're dealing with a different type of energy. So the energy was different, and there was a lot of very proactive work being done. And therefore, she was much more energized. Clea was much more energized, and she didn't need to touch base as often. It also depended on the amount of work she was doing at night, etc., etc. Now, there's a lot of work. One is because we want to be gone more. We just want to be gone more. We want to spend less time here. So in fact, Clea now needs to nap all of a sudden again. Clea would nap 3 hours during the day every day. And then she sleeps at night just perfectly fine, as it's never happened. Why? Because she really doesn't want to be here. And therefore, she's just trying to just be somewhere else. What's the easiest way to be somewhere else? You sleep and then you're free to go, right? You don't have to deal with a bunch of stuff. And so that's what happens. Depending on the amount of work you're doing, depending on where your attention and focus are, you're going to have different manifestations or needs at a physical level. Lorrayne, Thank you. Okay. Clea says that she's tired enough to lie down, but then she is in a sort of suspension, not sleeping. She wants to know if this is a preview of New Earth where we will not sleep, but have time to review things. Me. Yeah. So what happens is that Clea doesn't need, like many of us, she does not need to sleep anymore to travel. She can just basically go inside, which is what she does the moment that she lies down. Of course, she doesn't have the external stimuli. So it's almost like when she was having the plant medicine experience. This is a very similar experience that she's having when she lays down now, where she's just traveling and you don't need to be asleep for that. We realize that because, again, why do we sleep? We sleep, of course, because this is how we set up our bodies here. But also, why do we sleep? We sleep because this gives freedom to the essence to travel. And in this reality, it's very convenient to have it set up this way because then we can pretend that what we experience during travel is a dream and it's nothing. We just made it up. It's magic, okay? It's not real. Then we can go back to our 3D life and pretend this is all there is. But now Claire doesn't need to do this anymore. She knows. In fact, she's going back to how she was when the first 17 years of her life, she never slept. She never slept in the way that she thinks of sleeping now. And what she was doing is exactly what we're describing here. She was lying down and she was just traveling. She was aware of it. You know, many people call it astral travel, but they think astral travel is happening while you're sleeping. But in reality, it's because you are not sleeping. You're just in a suspended state. And so, yes, we're going to do a lot of this on New Earth. Now, on New Earth, we don't need to, because we can consciously control our environment. You don't necessarily need to close your eyes, but a lot of us will be doing that. It's similar to what you're doing when you're meditating in a way, but even more so, because again, it's almost like you're sleeping, but you're not really sleeping. That's what's happening. We're becoming so adept and so comfortable with not pretending anymore that a lot of the things that we used to do that we thought were par for the course here, how things work in 3D reality, we're not doing them anymore. And we don't care. We don't care. We don't have to pretend. So it's okay for you to think you're sleeping, but you're not really sleeping. But you wake up perfectly rested and you know you didn't sleep. You were active the whole night. And that's what's happening. So the next group of questions has to do with food intake. And I know that a lot of you have commented that you're having issues with food one way or the other related to food. This is happening in the Telegram group as well. I know one lady specifically who is having a lot of trouble with food. And so I really wanted to share this with you. All right. Lorrayne, you said that the reason Clea was getting heartburn and acid reflux was because she was eating in an attempt to ground while her focus is not on this planet and that she should really be fasting. But why does she have such a strong appetite? And what's going on now that her appetite is much reduced and she doesn't need to eat as voraciously? Me. Yeah, so there was a need before emotionally, and this wasn't from her higher self. It was from the body, and it was from Clea's conscious awareness, where she felt she was fighting to stay here because she didn't want to stay here. This is the case for many of us. In fact, many people in the Telegram group had the same issue. We don't want to be here. We already explained this. None of us want to be here. Now we are here. We've chosen to stay here. We are wanting to be here in the sense we want to finish certain things. But it's not like we're happy to, stay longer. We just realize it's a good idea to stay longer and it's worthwhile. But really at an emotional level, we don't want to be here. It's what you keep saying, Lorrayne. We are tired. There's nothing new, nothing. We're done already. It's past the 12th hour here. And so basically what Claire has been doing, as many others have been doing, was to use food, because food is a code to ground, to stay here, to force ourselves. It's almost like you're force feeding yourself to focus on this reality while you're saying, but I don't want to be here anymore. And this is what's been happening. Now, the problem is the acid reflux and all of that happened because the truth is your focus is already elsewhere. It's too late. It's too late to try to focus back on this reality. The only things we're focusing on, we know what we're focusing on. Everything else is kind of on autopilot for us as well. What we're focusing on is this the recall of this thing, and change in reality. But even the change in reality, what we are calling the becoming Neo, this transitional period, is not done physically. It's not done in a 3D way. So really, you don't need all this coding to ground you. And that's why the heartburn and the acid reflux, because the truth is, these codes are way too low vibrational for us right now. We truly have a new vibrational level that we're carrying. Not only, but it's important because our vibrational level is what is causing now. We're basically living more in our light. And this is what is causing us now to be able to accelerate things so much and turn them to the light. So there was a mismatch. And basically, this is when the heartburn and all of that came up. I know we mentioned before, Claire would be just as well served by not eating anymore. She doesn't need to eat anymore. Now, eventually, she's given up this resistance. She's also understood this is part of becoming Neo. Again, we're learning. We are learning these subtleties. We are learning these nuances in how we can use our energy, where we don't have to do one thing or the other. It doesn't have to be black or white. Yes, we're here. We are aware that our focus is already on your earth. We want to be out of here. So how about we start the transition period? We don't have to ground as much. And so we don't have to eat as much. And yes, we'll eat a little bit just so we can still keep focusing for what it takes here to be here. But we don't need to do the grounding work we did before. We don't need to ground anymore. And we can still be very aware that we're leaving. We're going to leave. And so now we can just focus on more higher consciousness things, higher vibration things. So we don't need these low vibrational codes. And that's why her appetite is mostly gone. Because now she's at peace with the fact that there's no need. She doesn't need to be desperate to ground anymore. There's nothing to ground into. I mean, this is pretty much almost a shell completely. There's only a few of us, a few animals left, a few plants left with essences. There's not much left. Gaia is here, of course, but that's it. It's almost like an empty world. We're living in an empty world. Again, if the NPCs weren't here, we would see this, we would know. And when they say we would know, they mean at a conscious level, we would realize, because obviously at an essence level, we already know exactly what's going on. And in fact, many of us, even at a conscious level, we realize, we feel like things are vacant, people are vacant a lot. And very odd things have been going on at a 3D level. Lorrayne. Thank you. Okay. Claire would like to know, why did she start eating normally around the same time that she shut down her spiritual gifts as a teenager when she came to the US for the first time? Had she embraced 3D at that point, or was the timing just a coincidence? And so I did not eat. So I set up for myself, I realize now, and actually the 25th talks about this later, but I set up for myself being starved as a baby. I was about not even probably a year old. My mother left me, or my parents left me with a babysitter, actually a family member, who gave all the food my mother left for me. She gave it to her children. And so I was surviving on my mom's milk at night. So my stomach eventually closed shut. They had to take me to the hospital. They had to do all kinds of stuff to get me to eat, and I never ate normally my entire childhood, teenage years. However, something switched in me. When I came to the United States the first time as an exchange student in high school, all of a sudden in the United States, I found my appetite. And so I always wondered about this coincidence, because they said that food is coding. So I'm like, that's interesting. So here's what the 25th had to say about this. And again, I'm only sharing this because it explains so much about our essence, knows exactly what tools to use in this reality to make certain things happen. And everything is always coming from the essence, not from the outside. So me, it wasn't a coincidence. No time is ever a coincidence. There is no time. So yes, she basically had decided to make the switch full into 3D, and that's what she did. So she started grounding. She started eating more. She started eating normally. She was not eating normally what we consider normal up to that point. She was barely eating anything. And so basically she decided, now I'm going to dip into reality fully. And that's what it was. The United States, food, all of it came at the same time for that reason. Lorrayne, thank you. Claire would like to know why she keeps seeing 1004 and 104. She wants to know if there is a specific meaning to this code beyond just knowing that she is in alignment with the energies and paying attention. And really, I just want to make a note here that it's really 1004. 1004 is the one that is incredibly continuous, constant, a constant in my life. And so finally, I'm like, because I see all kinds of number codes all day long, but this 1004 just comes out of nowhere all the time. And it's such an odd number that I'm like, oh, what's going on? So here's the explanation. Me. So this is interesting because they're saying that it's the code that unlocks the universe. And I don't know what that means. So what does it mean? And this is me asking my higher self. Yeah, it's almost like they're showing me it's like a code. They're showing me like a partition. It's almost like the dark moves aside and there's light. And there is something to this particular number that unlocks things. This is a coding to how we set up things. For some reason, this particular code has to do with how we set up everything. And the reason she keeps seeing it is because, one, that's where her focus is. And secondly, is to remind her this is the code we're using to make this come across. So this is the code we're using to change reality here. It's like a memory that's coming up where we know as 12,000, we know how to use this code. It's almost like you're resetting a combination lock. And this is, I'm literally seeing like clouds, like these gray walls just open, and they're soft walls like clouds that they're opening, and there's sun behind it. There is light behind it. And these are the codes we used. So perhaps it might be good to accelerate the memories, to focus on these codes, because this is how we're bringing about the recall of the thing as well. This is how we're accelerating everything. It's like turning the key in a lock. These numbers, these particular numbers, that's what they're doing. And I have to tell you guys, as I was transcribing this, I turn around because I do a lot of this work at night when my daughter is sleeping. I turn around, happen to look at the clock on my kitchen stove, and guess what? It's 10:04 p.m. So, I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. At any rate, so I'm gonna finish this paragraph here. So these numbers, these particular numbers, that's what they're doing, because Clea sees a lot of number sequences, very repetitive number sequences, but these particular two have been coming up even more than usual, like all the time. And this is the reason. These are the numbers that we need to focus on. So I wanted to give this to you, and I've already shared this information in the Telegram group, but I wanted to give this to you as a tool that we can use to accelerate things. If we consciously focus on these numbers, we are unlocking what we are here to do. We are basically accelerating, empowering even further the transitional period that we're going through. Lorraine, thank you. Okay. Claire would like to know what happened with her car being hit while parked. She had already had the least fun day at the Japanese festival, which she found was fun before, and then she found the car damaged. She wants to know, are we still playing the game of causing stuff to happen to pretend this is real? Or is it because she thought it would be nice to have the front of her car look new? Because she also thought that she didn't want to pay for it or waste time on it. If it's about the fact that reality is fluid right now and we must watch our thoughts because things easily manifest. She also had thought about many other things that would improve her life here, but those are not happening. In fact, she can't even close the deal that you asked her to work on to help the seller with it when she didn't want to do it. Is her higher self really such an amateur that it cannot focus on improving her 3D experience at all? She says it's so boring. What is she learning from this that she hasn't learned 1,000 times over, even just in this lifetime? So I know this question sounds a little bit whiny. I understand. I sometimes, not only I'm human, so I have the same complaints as everybody else that I would like reality to be easier already, right? We've got enough stuff as it is in this lifetime. But I also often challenge, well, always challenge the 25th. I want to know if they're telling us our higher self is in charge, why am I running into these snags? And I know I'm not the only one who's been running into snags. So here's the answer. Me. So they were laughing because I said that the higher self is an amateur. Yeah, so no, her higher self is definitely not an amateur. Yeah, so basically she wanted to have the car fixed, and guess what? She's gonna have the car fixed with zero cost out of her pocket. And it's gonna be like brand new, which she's been upset about that car being scratched for years since she bought it. And just as background story, very briefly, I scratched my car, I think 2 or 3 weeks after I had bought it, brand new. And I have never had it fixed because it was a scratch. It was just scratches, but it would have been expensive to fix. And I'm like, I mean, at this point, I was just upset about it. And the whole time I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if something fun could happen to where, you know, not a big deal. Something fun could happen to where I can get this fixed at no cost to me. So careful what you wish for, I guess. All right. And so, yeah, there you go. Reality is very fluid. That's how easy it is for us to make stuff happen. Now, has this caused some emotional upheaval? Yes, but to no great extent at the end of the day. She was very aware this is what had happened right from the beginning. So we would say, once again, be careful what you are intending because reality is fluid. You're making stuff happen. Now, what does that mean in terms of she's wished for a lot of other things? A lot of other things that Claire's been wishing for, of course, have to do with her financial situation because a lot of things have failed because, again, her higher self is not interested in achieving certain things. Now, Claire continues working, and of course, then things don't go through because, in a way, they keep her occupied. Now, Claire fairly says, okay, but what's the point then? I'm just working for no reason with no positive outcome from it. And I'm just working for the sake of it. Not only I'm working on things I don't even want to work on, and I've only picked up because you told me to pick them up, like in the case of this one deal that where Source actually told me that I should help the seller finish his song. But the fact is, they can still close. The point is that she still wants to close them. It's not a matter of saying, yeah, as long as you keep going for the next 10 years, eventually they will close. The reason certain things have happened is because Claire's been all over the place. So her higher self has been trying to balance things for her while it's very much focused on much more important matters. Now we understand that at a 3D level, that financial matters can affect us and do affect us, and they're very real. But at the same time, Claire can wiggle her way through. Again, we don't have much time left here, but we understand that she has to provide, not only, but again, she's working a lot with nothing to show for it. And so what we would say is, start doing things, and as long as you don't remove your focus from what matters, your higher self will not stop you, and you'll be able to take things to conclusion. I'm actually going to reread this. Here's the key to making our reality, our 3D reality, less unpleasant. I was going to say more pleasant, but at least less unpleasant. Start doing things that you might want to do and that maybe you've been sabotaged while doing by your higher self, so things have not gone according to plan. So start doing things, and as long as you don't remove your focus from what matters, your higher self will not stop you, and you will be able to take things to conclusion. What do they mean by you don't remove your focus from what matters? The only thing that matters right now is that we become consciously aware that we control reality, which means we must stop expecting or pretending that we are being affected by some outside energy, some outside reality, the sun, the moon, whatever, the intel community telling us a certain things are going on. We must realize everything is a show that's playing out for our sake because of our intention. We have certain intention for what's going to transpire here before we leave, and that's exactly what's playing out. And even though we might think at a 3D level, oh, but no, I don't want to see that anymore. The truth is we do want to see certain things in place for certain reasons. And the 25th goes into detail about this in other sessions, in other sections of the session, but also in the next section I'm going to share with you. And therefore, I'm not going to elaborate on it. But basically, all of this that we are intending is going to culminate in this thing being recalled. That's what we need to keep, why we need to keep our eye on the ball. That's the only thing that matters. Because if you just focus on that being recalled, that will signify, will symbolize that everything behind the scenes has been taken care of, which is what's happening. All right, so I'm going to continue here. For example, there is a deal that she's dealing with that it is going to close, and also she wants to look for a job, she'll be able to find it. But again, don't just jump back into 3D completely. That's what your higher self is trying to avoid. And now we understand you're saying, if I'd closed these deals, I wouldn't even need to do more work because then I would be okay. But we're talking about your emotional state. If your emotional state tells you that you need something, definitely go along with it. But at the same time, keep in mind that your higher self is taking care of you. These things are not really changing your life. That's why your higher self is not particularly concerned with them. Because at the end of the day, your higher self would never allow you to fall into a desperate state. So that's not what it has in mind for you. And it's just trying to keep a status quo until we leave here while you focus on more important matters. So I want to share this with you. I hope it brings some comfort or at least some clarity as to some of the situations you might be going through, because everyone who's left here, we're pretty much all dealing with the same kind of work that we're doing. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.